Uh, let's get it straight about Joe and I did a video earlier today. You probably see it on social media about France. France is burning. Okay. Obviously, you don't need to be a genius to figure out that France is burning. But this is from a while ago. Okay. I don't have the exact date. And listen, I'm playing Donald Trump, but let's be clear. Anybody with a brain cell in their head would be saying the same thing, only Trump is the one who's out there. Okay. He's in the crosshairs of the left and the oligarchs. So, bottom line is, he's the one who's going to get the most crap over this. But what he said is true. And what he said reflects what we're all saying. So, I'm going to play this right now, and we're going to come back.
A friend of mine, he said he was going to France like 3-4 months ago. I saw him yesterday. I said, how'd you like France? He said, I wouldn't go to France. I wouldn't go to France because France is no longer France. France is no longer France. They won't like me for saying that, but you see what happened in Nice. You see what happened yesterday with the priest who was supposed to be a spectacular man. France is no longer France.
And isn't that what the problem is? France is no longer France. Europe is no longer Europe. Joe and I have covered it on this show a number of times. The demise of Europe came in 1517 when Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses on the door of the Wittenberg Cathedral. That was the demise of Europe. That is when everything that bound Europe was just totally dissipated and went out. That gave those who hated the Catholic Church and hated the idea of Catholic Europe. And let's be clear, for 1,000 years, up till that point, it was Catholic Europe. From the fall of the Roman Empire up until 1517, it was Catholic Europe. And France and England and Italy and Germany and all the Eastern European countries, they all fell to Protestantism. They all fell to Protestantism, which then led to secularism, which then led to the so-called Enlightenment, which is the opposite of anything that would illuminate human consciousness. Okay, that's what the Enlightenment was. I don't care if you're talking about Rousseau or Hume or whoever else you want to, which has then led to Nietzsche, which then led to the Nazis, the communists, and which got us to the point where we're at now, where nobody knows how to deal with those who would attack European civilization because there is no European civilization. France is no longer France, as Orange Man Bad just said. England is no longer England. Go read Joseph Pierce's book, A History of True England. England was a Catholic nation, not a Protestant one. And its downfall came after Henry VIII made sure that the Catholic Church had no say in anything that goes on in England. This is the state of Europe. And my point in bringing this up and showing this Donald Trump video is, why is anybody shocked that France is no longer France, that England is no longer England, that the old Germany is no longer Germany? You know which countries are actually, what would you call it? That have integrity as a nation? Poland, Hungary, Austria. Big resistance in Austria to the European Union and everything they're trying to do. Why do we need Donald Trump to say this? Because he's the only one out there in the public that is actually saying it. And the bottom line is, it's actually true. It's absolutely true. Europe, I will expand on Donald Trump. Europe is no longer Europe. And their demise comes by their own actions. You reap what you sow. And now that you're crying, don't come bitching to us because we're not listening to you. Can somebody please explain this to me? Because, look, I consider myself to be a fairly well-informed guy. I try to be empathetic, sympathetic, all the things the world tells us we have to be. I try to love everyone because Jesus said we have to. You know, if you don't love other people. I love this guy. I do as a human being. I do, and I pray for him. But this is a lost, confused soul who is basically just spreading lies. And I'm just going to let you watch this nonsense, and then you guys tell me.
My name's Stephen McKell, and I identify as asexual.
I'm asexual. I don't feel sexual attraction. That does not mean I don't like affection. I still have feelings and like to show love. I'm not broken. I'm asexual.
Oh my gosh, the silly, stupid things people say about asexual people. And sometimes it comes from the LGBT plus community as well, which, you know, a victory for one of us is a victory for all of us. So it's about that inclusion, that diversity, and accepting people how we are. To have kind of like an identity that I can kind of be a part of is amazing.
What makes me feel really bad for this guy is that it seems like he doesn't belong anywhere. I would tell him that he belongs with people who have a worldview that recognizes objective truth, biological truth. He says he's not sexually attracted. That could be for a variety of reasons. He says he's rejected by the LGBT community. But here's the thing. He does not have an identity. Therefore, he should be accepted by the LGBT community because they don't have an identity either. Remember, identity is fluid. So they can't even, one day you're L, next day you're B, next day you're T, the next day you're I, the next day you're 2, whatever the case may be. It's all nonsense. We all know that. But this guy is really a lost, confused soul. And what he needs, number one, is a lot of prayers. Okay, number one. Number two is that he needs to be told, and many people like him, they need to be told the truth about things. And that's one thing. The truth is not in abundant supply in the modern world. Are you tired of doing business with companies who don't share or support your beliefs? Then you need to switch from your current phone company to Charity Mobile. Charity Mobile is the pro-life phone company. 5% of your monthly plan goes to support the pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice. There are no contracts, and Charity Mobile makes it very easy to switch. Act now, because for a limited time, new customers who mention the offer code Joe and Joe get a free phone with free activation and free shipping. Chat with us online at CharityMobile.com or call us at 877-474-3662. I have a question for Elton John. Now, let me say this first, okay? I'm a 55-year-old man. I grew up on Elton John. I am a classic rock fan going back to when I was a kid. I will put Elton John's first 5 albums that he produced, and I'll put them up against anybody's. I don't care if it's Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, the Beatles. Phenomenal artist. I will never take away from Elton John's talent, mega talent as an artist, songwriter, and a performer. Okay. I love so much of his music, but Elton is gay. Elton has always been gay. The focus of Elton John is always to promote being gay. And now he turns around and he says, the U.S. is going backward on LMNOP rights. Here's my point. Obviously, this is all coming out because of the Supreme Court decision that says that a business owner does not have to promote a message that they don't want, that goes against their belief. Here is my question to Elton John. Let's say, Elton, you knew a baker. Now, I live in Arizona now. So let's say a baker in Arizona. And I walk in, me, Mr. Roman Catholic, into that baker, and that baker's that baker happens to be gay or lesbian. And I say to them, listen, I belong to the Catholic parish down the block. We want you to bake a cake that says marriage is between one man and one woman. And I'll pick it up on Friday. The question is, Mr. John, would you be posting that meme right now? Would you be saying what you're saying right now? Because when that gay or lesbian bakery owner says, no, I'm not going to produce that cake, that's not what I believe in. Are you going to then understand where Christians and Catholics are coming from when they say, I will not support a particular message? It has nothing against being against you as a human being. It has to, it talks about, or it speaks to, I will not support anything that goes against my beliefs, even if I'm a business owner. Even if I'm a business owner. So I will ask the question again. If you knew a couple of bakers who were gay and lesbian and who owned their own business, and a Catholic walked in and wanted a cake that said, marriage is between one man and one woman, would you support that? I think that's a legitimate question for Sir Elton John. I don't have heroes. I don't. And when I say that, I mean, I don't make heroes out of everybody that the world tells me I need to make heroes out of. I have heroes in individual areas. Like, to me, I'm a New York Jets fan. Joe Namath for me is a hero. Because he did something that was at that time next to impossible. Okay. And he followed through with it. So in that area in football, Joe Namath is a hero. I happen to have met him once. I had the honor of meeting him, and he's a very good and humble man. I say that. Okay. But I don't have heroes. My hero is Jesus Christ, because he did the ultimate. He performed the ultimate act of sacrifice for me. For me. I don't care what the atheists and the whoever else say. 2,000 years ago, he did that for me. This guy here on the left-hand side of the screen, okay, I'm going to put him in a very, very, very small group of people in the modern world who I would consider to be a hero. And I'm going to come back after. I want you to listen to what he has to say. He's talking about Sound of Freedom, his new movie. Jim Caviezel, for me, and for a variety of reasons, not just Sound of Freedom, is a hero. Let's listen to him for about a minute.
I did The Passion of the Christ, and when the movie was over, two people that had committed murder came forward and turned themselves in. That was how powerful that film is. This one has the reverse. You watch it, you feel God's love and the power in this movie, Sound of Freedom, and it makes you unafraid. I was willing to come forward and speak truthfully on things like adrenochrome, organ harvesting, and was severely reprimanded by much of the media. And they claimed their fact checkers knew more, but they don't know like you guys know. I put you up against them anytime. And so, but it was a burden that I was no longer burdened with anymore. My career, I would never put in front of the children. And I just ask you to look in your heart, to go to the film Sound of Freedom, which is a phenomenal movie which represents you, and let that be your word against what these liars have done for a long, long time.
And that's the idea, is that what the liars have done for a long, long time. You got to hear people. You know, Joe and I at the front line with Joe and Joe, we recently interviewed Chuck Konzelman and Carrie Solomon, who produced the movie Nefarious. They wrote, produced, and directed Nefarious. Okay. And it's interesting that at one point the atheist character, I would emphasize to everybody, please go see Nefarious, just like please go see Sound of Freedom. I haven't seen Sound of Freedom yet, but I saw Nefarious. Okay. That the modern world somehow in the mind of the secularists is such a great place. We have more freedom than we have ever had. We can marry who we want. We can have sex with who we want. All these, we're fighting against hate speech. Of course, what Jim Caviezel is doing right now, according to them, is hate speech. Yet in the movie Nefarious, and Jim Caviezel just pointed it out, in the movie Nefarious, the character of Nefarious, who's possessed this death row inmate, okay, basically says, you have 40 million slaves in the world. 40 million, half of which are sex slaves. Now, I'm going to wait to see. I don't know what the statistic is, but according to Sound of Freedom, I bet you a rather large majority of that 20 million sex slaves our children. Jim Caviezel is going to get himself killed. And I say that obviously not because I want that to happen to him, but because he's sticking his neck out. And anybody who sticks their neck out to fight against human trafficking, which is sex trafficking, which is slavery, to all you liberals out there who constantly talk about American slavery, it's the worst sin in the world, but you condone the slavery that's going on every single day right now, all over the world. You just condone it all. You don't say anything about it. Jim Caviezel saying something about it. Not only that, he did a movie about it. Not only that, he sacrificed a career. Let me tell you something. Jim Caviezel, and I've been an actor for a long time. I haven't acted in a long time, but I know what it is to be an actor. Okay. I know movies for a long time. I know who Hollywood stars are going back 40, 50, 60, 70 years, even before I was born. And I know this, Jim Caviezel would surpass many of those Hollywood stars, both financially and the amount of money, the amount of movies that he would have done because of his involvement in The Passion of the Christ, which he alluded to here. And because of his involvement with this movie, he's never going to have that. And you know what? That's why Jim Caviezel is a hero of mine, because he doesn't care. Jim Caviezel puts Jesus Christ first. First is what he does. And how evil manifests itself in the world, in this case through human trafficking, in this case through sex trafficking, in this case through child sex trafficking. He says, now Jim Caviezel is a faithful Roman Catholic. I, as a Roman Catholic, have a duty and obligation to fight against this, and more importantly, to out those people who are supporting this. You tell me this guy's not a hero? Jesus Christ said, what greater love is there than a person lays his life down for his friends? Now, in the case of Jesus Christ, his friends meaning humanity. Jesus laid his life down to save us, if we would only avail ourselves of his forgiveness and his mercy for our disgusting actions, which include human trafficking, which include the sex trade, child trafficking, and all of it, organ harvesting, which occurs all the time. Jim Caviezel is doing just that. I don't often call people good. I don't think many people in this world are good. I think a lot of the saints weren't really good before they became saints. Jim Caviezel, to me, is a good man. He's a good man because he'll sacrifice something that he could have had. And he's doing well. Don't get me wrong. He's doing well. But he could have had, in the eyes of the world, a lot more. And for Jim Caviezel, what's most important is to speak the truth about many of the evils in the world. And the truth is a person, not an idea, which is Jesus Christ. Thanks for joining me at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo. Stick around for more great content.